Hi guys, it's me Aisyah here from IBN. Welcome back to this YouTube channel. Now I'm going to explain about the factor market, chapter 27, microeconomics. I hope you understand and keep on watching.
Hello, so now I'm going to explain about the factor markets from microeconomics chapter 27. As you can see on the diagram below, this is called the circular flow model. On top is the factor market, bottom is product market. Product market. Individuals provides money into businesses and in return, businesses provides goods and services. However, for factor market, the business are the one who provides money to the individuals, which in most cases is a wage, and individuals provide their labor or their land to the business. The individuals are in supply, the business are in demand. This is for factor market. And for product market is the opposite, meaning that the individuals are in demand and the business are in supply. Okay, so moving on, now it's about the perfect competition. Perfect competition, the majority of the factor markets within the perfectly competitive market. There are two graphs as shown here. First is the industry or the market, and the second one is the firm. Firm is the wage taker, meaning it derives the wage from the industry where the supply and demand meet, which is the equilibrium point. Profit maximization point is MRC equals to MRP. Demand is downward sloping line because of diminishing marginal product of labor, which is basically the more labor, the more problem. Supply of the firm is a perfectly competitive market and equals the wage. MRP equals demand, MRC equals supply or wage. Next is about derived demand. Derived demand can be defined as the demand for the input resource is derived from the demand for the product. We're going to be using an example of leather shoes, with our resources being leather and the worker being the shoemaker. If the demand for the leather shoes goes up, the demand for everything else goes up as well, and vice versa. If the demand for the leather shoes goes down, the demand for everything else goes down. Now we're going to talk about marginal revenue product or in short MRP. Marginal revenue product is the additional revenue a firm yields when another unit of input of labor is added. MRP can be solved by multiplying marginal product times price or MP and P. If you increase MP and P, so will MRP increase. If you decrease MP and P, so will MRP decrease. You can also calculate MRP by taking the change in the total revenue over the change in the number of inputs. Now, an issue you might run into is if the MP and the price go in different directions. So, for example, is MP up, P down. So, if MP down, P goes up. Therefore, MRP is not able to calculate unless given a specific number. Moving on is marginal resource cost, or in short MRC. Marginal resource cost is the additional cost incurred from an additional unit of input, worker. MRC, wage in a perfectly competitive market, since this is the cost of hiring one more worker. MRC can be calculated by finding the change in the total resource cost, otherwise known as the comparative change in wage, and over the change in resource quantity, or known as the number of workers you've had. As you can see from the picture, that's the equation. Last but not least is the three shifters of demand and supply. Now I'm going to focus on the demand first. First shifter is change in demand for the product. An increase in demand for a product, let's say protein bars. They ultimately increases the price, therefore, the marginal revenue product of the resource used to make the protein bars, aka the working, is ultimately increased. So it shifts the demand curve to the right. Second, change in productivity. New technology. Say a robot is more productive than a human. So the firm has an incentive to make more product, thus the demand for the robots would increase. Third, price of resources. There's two, complementary and substitution. Substitution would be a product you're able to replace with. Substitution resource, an example, would be a human and robot. Both perform the same tasks. Okay, next is the three shifters of supply. Number one is number of workers. Number of workers. I'll give you an example. For example, if there is something like a great immigration and the number of workers increase, the supply would go up. Since there are more workers available to work. Second is government regulation. The most common example is business licensing. And the last one is personal values regarding to leisure. Someone's much less likely to work if they're working at times at a price point where they'd much rather use their free time rather than working. Another example for this point is if a company is offering $8 an hour for 15 hours a day, someone will choose their free time over that and therefore supply will go down. That's it for the presentation. Thank you for listening. I hope you understand. Goodbye.